Hello, so welcome to the next part of our RBAC training, which is on the tricky concept of data security and data objects. So, quick recommendation before we get going. This is easily the hardest part of the course, and I can tell you from experience working with a number of consultants now that when you come to do Employee Centre and Applaud configuration for real, it's this part on data security that tends to cause the most confusion and questions. So recommend you get yourself a strong drink or whatever is best for you, and take this concept and topic slowly, and potentially replay the recording a second time if you'd like to go through it again. It's really important you get to grips with the concept of data security. It's an important topic, we use it a lot, and if you don't understand it by the time you come to do an implementation for real, you can run into a lot of confusion. So let's get started. Data security is really extending the topic we touched on last time. This is another diagram and just extending the diagram we looked at before. We've been talking about roles and permission sets. Permission sets are like your menus and layouts. So for example, you have the role that's an employee or manager, you have the permission set that is the personal information layout, and then you have the permissions like basic details, phones, addresses, contacts. And then the grant is the thing that connects them both together. The grant says the employee role has access to see personal information layout. Now, where we stopped last time is we talked about public grants, grants where you had access to see a layout against everybody. But now we get on to the concept of data security, which takes that security concept one step further. So permissions can be optionally given granted against a data object. So normally when you grant or put options on a menu, that menu option is on or off. It's usually Boolean. You either have it or you don't have it. You have it for everybody or you don't have it at all. So for example, if you think about this on maybe your employee self-service menu, you could put the absence function on there or you could take it off. It's an on-off choice. When you get into data security, the access to that menu option is conditional based on the rules that you build around the data security object. So for example, you could say I have access to the absence functionality or for employees only, or I have access to the payslip for my record only. You're securing the process against a piece of data basically, which is very different to the way standard Oracle E-Business Suite security works. So we have to introduce some terminology now. Two concepts to introduce. One is the concept of the data object, and the data object could be something like an HR assignment, basically an object in HR when we're talking about Applaud. So an object could be a person, a contact, a phone record, an EIT, something like that. Natural fact, data objects, as we'll come on to, describe a group of objects. So more usual is all HR assignments that you've got stored in your database. So it could be all employee records, or it could be all EIT records. So a data object normally corresponds to a database table or a database view. And then an instance set, this is the second term we have to learn. This defines a subset of data. In other words, it's, if you imagine the data object describing a big set of information, 100 rows on a database table, an instance set narrows that group of data down as defined by the parent object. So this is much easier to talk to with examples. Let's take the example of the HR assignment. So the data object HR assignment would describe the set of all assignments, and an instance set might be something like the logged on users assignment. That's an example of just one single row in the assignments table that is analogous to my assignment as the logged on user. Okay, so the data object describes a big superset of data, and an instance set narrows that data definition down to a smaller number of records. Okay, let's have a turn to Oracle screens. First of all, you need to start using Functional Developer. That's the only responsibility I know, without modification at least, where you can view data objects. So within Functional Developer, you go to the Security tab. On there is an Objects option. And then data objects are actually quite simple things. They just give them a name and a code. The key thing here is they are always based, in Oracle terms, on a database object. And that database object could be an Oracle table, an Oracle view, a custom table, or a custom view. So for example, if we look here at Applaud HR Person SIT, that's based on a view called XXA as per personnel analysis V. And you can see by the application name that's a custom view. Well, it's not it's a view that Applaud have shipped. It's not a view that Oracle have shipped. So from Oracle's perspective, it's a new view. Okay, it's one that we've developed. Whereas if you look at Applaud HR assignment object, that's based on the database object per all assignments F. All right, so these data objects describe the full set of data that can be available through that database object. In the case of assignments, it's every assignment record. In the case of Applaud HR Person SIT, it's whichever SIT records are returned by that view. So that's the first thing to try to get into your head. A data security object or a data object is simply a mapping to a database table or database view. Now when we get onto instance sets, the way you get to instance sets is you go into the objects form, you click on a link here, I'll show you this in a second, and then you see instance sets, and the instance sets are, well, they're just given a name and a code, but once you click on this here, you'll actually see something that makes a bit more sense. This is the detail of one particular instance set, and in particular you can see this predicate here. This predicate is just a simple piece of SQL. The table alias here refers to the table or view that was against the data object itself. So if I just bring up a notepad, something I've written earlier already. So for this particular example here, what I've got highlighted in blue, just take this off. So the data object is basically that SQL statement. It's bringing back all records possible from the database object table or view specified. So the database object Applaud HR assignment is basically the set of rows coming back from that SQL command. And then the Applaud HR assignment with instance set Applaud HR assignments restricted to logged on employee. Not quite getting that on screen. Let's move over a tad. That is effectively the same select with an extra predicate, which is where, and then we copy this, so and table alias. So what we do in here is we've got PAAF dot assignment ID in select assignment ID from all assignments F, where, and then the rest of it. Okay, so that will obviously give you a lot fewer assignments back, 1 or 2, depending if you've got more than one assignment or not. And that effectively is the data object with that instance set applied on it. All right. So let's just have a look in Oracle data objects. So I'm using the functional developer responsibility. And you can see on here objects. So I find functional developer and functional administrator very similar responsibilities. Sometimes I use both of those at the same time. But on functional administrator, on the security tab, you get grants, you don't get objects. So, but on functional developer, you get objects. And that's the only place we can see it. And if I want to look at Applaud objects, bring the code of XXAS, press go. There's all our Applaud objects. we'll look at, I don't know, let's look at assignments. So I click on the site, you can see that all the tables and views that we've used here. If I look at this one, click on here, there's a bit of information on here, but the key one that you use most of all is this Object Instance Sets tab. This gives you the instance sets for this particular object. And if I want to look at the SQL underneath that, I can just click on that row and I can see the SQL coming up here, that predicate. So to start with, I found that these screens are actually quite difficult to use, mainly because I didn't know what I was looking for when I first started to use these. But I think once you start getting acquainted with the Oracle screen, you'll find your way around. Key thing is objects based on database table or view. Click all the way through, and then you can see the instance sets associated with that database object. Click on an instance set to see the predicate, which is basically a where clause for a SQL statement. Now, I'm deliberately not telling you how this is used within Applaud at the moment. I'm just trying to get across the concepts. That's really the main aim of this particular topic, is to get you to understand what these things are. Okay. So let's recap that. Data security object, data object, object, all the same sort of thing when in Oracle terms. It's a table or view on the database, and it describes the set of data returned from a select star against that table or view. All right. So the Applaud HR assignments data object, for example, describes every single assignment on the table per all assignments F. And then the instance set is simply restricting down the number of rows returned by that data object to a more discrete set. So for example, you could have an instance set that is the current and active employee assignments. So something where you would not just bring back everything from parallel assignments F, you'd also restrict on effective date and maybe employment category. Okay, that is analogous to basically putting a where clause at the end of the data object table. Right, I'm just going to go into an exercise in a minute, but before we do that, I just wanted to revisit the whiteboard that we were working on yesterday. So remember when we looked at this setup yesterday? Just to recap again, we got the user, we got the responsibilities, we got the different roles that user has, we got the permission set and the permissions, we've got the grant, and we talked yesterday about the grant giving access to view that layout, the overview layout, against any assignment. Now actually, if we start putting on our Oracle terms, this brown box here represents, hopefully you've guessed it, your data object. So we actually started with data objects and data security in the previous session. Just started with a simple example where you have access to the overview for every single assignment that's possible to see. And we didn't have an instance set. The instance set was a special kind of instance set, which is all rows. So if you remember when you were looking at the grants where you had that all rows thing, that's effectively an instance set that is the same as the data object, if you like. So when you're defining a grant, you define the data object you're securing access against, and you also define the instance set you're going to use. So in the case we looked at yesterday, the data object was per assignments F, and the instance set was all of them, all rows. Okay, we didn't restrict it down. And that meant that when you logged on as the employee, you saw the overview page for every assignment that you queried back. Now the final topic of this session, we'll start to get into the nuts and bolts of how data security is used practically. But for now, the real goal of this session is just to get you understanding those terms and get you familiar with the Oracle screens, because this will probably be the first time that you've used those screens before. And so we have a quick exercise. Again, this is mainly to get you used to using the Oracle screens and managing your way through the Oracle screens. So take 10 minutes or so. Normal format applies. I will pause the training for about 30 seconds, allow you to do the exercises, and then when you unpause the training, I will run through the answers. Good luck. Okay, right. So let's start from the top. First question, navigate to functional developer responsibility. What are the names of the Applaud objects for absences and person? Let's do that. So we'll start from the home menu, go to functional developer home. I'll just search on all the ones that we ship, so XXA is percent. So what was the question? Absences in person, right. So you may have been caught out by Applaud absence types. That's not the one we're looking for. This is absence types, not absence itself. The one we're looking for is HR leave of absence down here, and that's based on a table called XXAS leave of absence V. Okay, so the name of the object was Applaud HR leave of absence. In terms of person, hopefully you found that one, Applaud HR person. There's the code, and that's based on the base table per all people F. Okay, well there you go. I've answered the second ones at the same time. Applaud HR person was based on per all people F. The absence one was based on one of our views. How many instance sets are defined against the object Applaud HR assignment? Ignore any XXX ones. Okay, so on this particular environment, we've got a little bit of training set up as well. So asking you to ignore any of the XXX stuff. But first thing is to understand how to use the screen to get to instance sets. Take the screen, you click on Applaud HR assignment, and then you get this rather confusing screen, I think. But anyway, there's the object set tab there. Click on there. You should see four instance sets. So we're going to ignore the top ones because they start with XXX. Okay, you should be have 4. So Applaud HR assignments restricted to logged on employee, actions, DRs, manager reports. So look at the SQL for those 3 assignments instance sets. Can you guess what each one does? There will be an element of guesswork in this particular question because I know that these call PL SQL functions, but should still be possible to guess what they do. So first one, XXASG logon person. If I click on this, this is actually fairly straightforward to work through. F&D global employee ID is your person ID of the user that you've logged on as. So this is basically selecting all assignments from per all assignments F where the person ID is the same as your current logged on user ID. So this is going to get at least one in primary assignment because we've also got the effective start date group out there. Notice we're not querying on the primary flag, so that if you had multiple assignments, this would give you more than one assignment coming back. So this instance set describes the set of assignments that belong to you as the user. Next one, XXASG has DRs. That's that one here. So as you can see here, you can start to use your own custom PL SQL packages as we've done here. Obviously you guys don't have access to see what that is, so you really have to guess what this is doing from the name. So DRs stand for direct reports. So this is saying Applaud HR assignments restricted to those with direct reports. You could probably guess from the fact this is a hierarchy package and something else going on. What this is doing is saying, is the person a manager or not? Does the assignment have direct reports reporting into them? In other words, this would return you the set of assignments belonging to supervisors. It's a way for you to determine if a manager, if someone is a manager or not. And then the last one, XXASG logon reports. There we go at the bottom. Again, there's a bit of a custom package there, so you have to do a little bit of guessing. What this is saying is Applaud HR assignments restricted to logged on managers reports. These are all the assignments of people that report into you, the logged on manager. So if I'm logged on as Barry Erickson, this instance set will return to me all the assignments of people that report into me, not just my direct reports, but all the people underneath those direct reports as well. In other words, the entire hierarchy of people that I manage. And it's returning the assignments of those people. Now we'll see how these are used in the next session, but basically, as you can see, what we've got as a data object is the assignment table, and we're just using instance sets to restrict down to a group of assignments. Challenge question, okay, that's new. Look at the object Applaud HR qualifications. There are 2 instance sets defined. What do you think they might be for? So let's find qualifications. Here we are. And here we go too. So professional qualifications and education qualifications. So the best way to try to guess what they might be doing is to click on them, see the SQL, and here we go, table person ID. Okay, so that indicates that this qualification record is owned by me, the logged on user, and this flag is set to awards. So there's a flag on the qualification table that determines whether a qualification is an education qualification or an award or a professional qualification. So in this case, we're restricting the set of qualifications down to only awards owned by myself, the logged on user. If I go to this one here, this one's the opposite. This is education. This is the qualifications you've had from school or college. Okay. We come on to how those are used practically in Suite 3, where we talk a bit more about data coming back into views. Anyway, that exercise was really determined to get you using the functional developer responsibility, looking at objects, looking at instance sets, and really understanding what these terms mean in Oracle. That's the end of this recorded session. The next session is the final one in the RBAC series, and this is where we pull everything together, where we secure views with grants and more advanced data security. So one more session to go. That's the end of this particular training session. Thanks.